Welcome to Uncluttered and Unfiltered, the podcast urging you to let it go and don't look back. With nationally acclaimed professional organizer Christine Stone and self-proclaimed hot damn mess radio and TV personality Eden Kendall.
Welcome, everybody, to Uncluttered and Unfiltered. I'm Eden Kendall, along with Christine Stone of Neatly Designed, and I want to focus on that for just a moment because Christine is going to grace us with some spring cleaning nuggets today, and we need it. Boy, do we need it.
Well, I think everyone, even the over 50 crowd, clean differently. You know, when you're, the reason why I say that is your kids are gone, you have more space, and so I think everybody through different phases of their life have different ways they want to get organized.
Okay. So when you say spring clean, are you saying it from an uncluttered, which would make sense, point of view, or are you just talking about the whole shebang? Because, you know, we had a question on our Facebook community, the Uncluttered and Unfiltered Ladies Only community, and you said, you know, do you have any questions about that? And a couple of people mentioned things like dust, but I got to tell you, tell me if I'm right. Is your number one thing about dust to be like, stop buying things that are going to collect dust? Because
Yes.
I was at an event this weekend and they were giving out the cutest little Nert squeeze balls, you know, the stress balls that were shaped like little sumo wrestlers. And boy, were they cute. And you know what I said to my friend Ginger when we walked by them? I said, if I bring that into my home, what would Christine Stone say?
Gosh.
Why should I bring this? I'm not going to squeeze it. I'm not going to put it on a shelf. So where is it going to go? In a drawer? So to me, for as far as dust goes, maybe it's about getting rid of the things that collect the most dust, like your fake plants and things like
that is like little trinkets, little items, keeping shelves full of stuff. There's no way you can get those cleaned without simplifying your life. So my thought is take one room at a time and really simplify what you have out. Even your curtains get dusty. I mean, so you really want to look at your bedroom, look at your office, look at your kitchen, and look at where the dust is collecting. And generally it's behind things. I mean, when you pull things out of cabinets, what do you find? Bugs and dust. And so it's simplifying the space, no matter what area it is, and really doing a deep clean once you've already pulled everything out. I always say you will never really get the full look of being purged and organized unless you pull every single thing out and clean the space and only put back what you really need, you really use, and you really love.
So if you're going around the house dusting, I'm just trying to make sure I understand, and there are some items that you're spending a lot of time dusting, maybe every time you do that, you have to think like, is it worth having this item out? Because all it's doing is gathering dust. It's not bringing me any kind of excitement when I walk into a room seeing it out there. I could just as easily have it stored somewhere.
Definitely. I think you really... in my own home, in my house, I walk by and everything that I have out has kind of a purpose, has a meaning. And so one thing I learned getting older and being an empty nester is I don't want to clean so much anymore. I don't want to pick up after everybody. I just want to keep my own environment simplified and make it easy on me. And I think that's what all of us really want as we get older. We're tired and we just want to make life easier. So keeping shelves simplified, keeping items, like I said, that you only use and you love, and really kind of simplifying your space.
So should we look at some of these other questions very quickly first?
Yes.
And then, because I know you have prepared a kind of a
spring cleaning.
A spring cleaning checklist here. But the other thing was Dana wanted to know about storing bulky sweaters and sweatshirts. And she just recently downsized. So a lot of this is stuff like if you go back and listen from the beginning, you'll hear the closet episode or you'll hear the downsizing episode. But you've said time and time again, if it's a bulky sweater or a sweatshirt and it's summer, that should be like in an under the bed box.
The best way, and I have this actually on my list.
Okay, then never mind. We can get to it.
Well, it is really using the vertical space in another room or in your own closet. Use stackable containers, label them sweaters, winter accessories, and use the vertical space on a shelf. That way it frees up space in other places. Also, if you have a guest room, clear out the guest room closet and make that your winter closet. Kind of transform that into winter/travel, like utilize the space if it's not being used and get the opposite season out of your closet, especially like in Florida. We live in Florida. You don't want these heavy winter coats taking up all that space in your closet because you wear them like 3 times a year, if that. And so you want to keep your closet in the season that you are in. So when you walk in your closet or you open the doors to your closet, you're like, this is so refreshing. I know what I have. I can put outfits together with ease. So to me, using the space in other areas and using the vertical space on shelves.
Okay. Another question we had where I love when somebody writes a comment or a question and then somebody else comes along and says, amen.
I love that.
Oh, yeah, preach it.
I
Preach
love
it, sister. So when your adult kids are storing their stuff at your house, I mean, to me, that's a kind of a no-brainer. It's either like tell them they got to get it out of there or treat it like it is the seasonal stuff.
It's a tough thing because they'll take advantage of you. I mean, if they could keep it there for 10 years and use your house as a storage unit, they will do it. So at some point you have to put your foot down, because one thing I've learned about this 20-something 30-something generation, they don't like clutter. They don't like a lot of stuff in their houses. So they're fine keeping it at your house.
Well, I have to tell you, there was a whole time where the big tiny house craze was on all the TV shows, and you had these at the time, I would say they were millennials because they've grown up since then. And this is not millennial bashing. It's just, this was a TV thing. They'd be on there saying, we can't believe how much space we really have here. And meanwhile, they're sitting on their toilet cooking their breakfast.
Right. Yeah.
And I said, and they're like, we just wanted to minimize. And I said, you are not going to convince me unless I can go in their parents' house and see that they really did get rid of everything. Because if you're living in a tiny house, but your parents have boxes in their garage that's all
or
the
storage units.
Yeah, then I'm not convinced that you're so minimalist after all. So that's not to be skeptical so much as I'm just unimpressed with that whole thing if you're still storing your stuff at your family's house. And I've got a closet full of my kiddos' things.
Well, I just think there has to be a time limit. You know, when your kids are in college, you're not going to have them schlep all their stuff to college.
Of course not.
I mean, you're going to keep their stuff.
Yeah.
But you know, they're married and have the kid, and they still have all their stuff at your house, all their soccer trophies from when they were in 4th grade. I think that's the time you say either you come get it or guess what? It's going to the curb on garbage day, only because it's taking up valuable space in your own house that you could be using for something you actually need for yourself. And that's why the over 50 empty nesters, they have a different set of circumstances going on because they generally gain a little bit of space that they didn't have before.
In a perfect world.
Yeah.
We downsized and then COVID hit and both kids came home from college 2 weeks after we downsized, and we were like, oh, we didn't buy this house thinking 4 adults were going to live in it, but okay. But that's a circumstance you can't ever predict. So, okay, let's go. Let's turn the floor over to you completely now, and just run us through some of your tips for spring cleaning the uncluttered way.
Well, spring cleaning, generally, I love to talk about garages. And the reason is because you want to tackle this area before it gets too hot.
Right.
So if you're in a country that gets really hot or a city, a state that gets really, you are not going to want to tackle your garage in the summer months or even here in Florida in the fall, early fall. It's too hot and you won't last long. You'll start breaking out in a sweat and you'll say, forget it. This isn't working. So spring is the perfect time to tackle that garage. And it's so important to keep your garage not as a storage unit of your house, because so many people just take whatever they don't want in their house and they just bring it out to the garage. So they can't park a car in there. They can barely walk in there. And so it's like anything else. Purge everything in the garage, old kids' sports equipment, gardening items that you don't use anymore, auto supplies, anything that's just been sitting in there for years and years and years, and get rid of it and start fresh and make the garage a place that you enjoy going into. And I know that people are thinking, what, a garage? But there are so many great ways to use your garage for storage. I mean, that looks good and
Right.
is functional.
Like along the walls, but very flush to the wall and that kind of thing. We can get both cars at any time into our garage, and we make the other men in the neighborhood crazy. They walk by, and if our garage door is open, they'll tell my husband, dude, you make us look so bad.
Yep.
And because the majority of people can't get 2 cars in their garage, they
can't
maybe
even get one.
Maybe they can get one at the most. But the thing too, I would like to, in case you don't have this on your list, but this stuck with me so much from our downsizing episode when you said schedule donation pickups.
Oh, it's
Seems
on
to
my
me-
list.
Okay, never mind. I really should wait till the end. Hold my questions till the end, as they say.
Well, especially in the garage. I mean, it's already out of your house. So definitely schedule a donation pickup because literally they're just coming in your garage and taking it. So it is the simplest spot to really get organized. And the reason why I keep bringing up the over 50 is different because a lot of people have lived in their house for 20 years, 30 years. And so they've kept everything, every nail, hammer, tape measure. And so now is the time, if you're moving, if you're downsizing, or you just are really ready, it's time to tackle the garage and get it organized and decide, do you need shelving? Do you need bins? Are you going to put a refrigerator out there? Do you just want your cars out there and nothing else? Hooks for bikes? Really thinking about what am I going to use my garage for once I clear everything out.
But the thing I love about the scheduling of the donations is because then you have a deadline and you want to have plenty to give them.
Yes.
So if it's already scheduled for the day after you're planning to do the clean out, you're more motivated, I think.
And I also say clean out the garage when garbage day is the next day, because that
yes.
way, if there are items that don't need to be donated, they're just garbage. You're just getting it out to the curb and they're coming to pick it up the next day. Keeping containers weather tight. I mean, in Florida, you have bugs, you have humidity. So you're not storing your family photos out there. You're not storing anything that can't take the elements. But keeping weather-tight storage containers are not only they look great, but they're serving a purpose and a function for items like if you're storing beach towels or whatever you may be storing in them. And then just use containers you can stack because then you're using the vertical space on the shelves.
Of course. So what's next? So we know that we don't have much time to get to that garage because the temperature is going to be soaring everywhere.
Right.
At least in the U.S.
So that's something I really do want people to think. Is it going to be 90 degrees in a month or 2 months? And if you live in Florida, the answer is yes. So now we're going to move on to transitioning your closet from winter to spring. And we've gone over closets before so many times, but it's different when you're transitioning because I don't know about everybody else, but I don't want all my winter stuff in my summer closet or in my spring closet because I will never be wearing those. But I want them to be visible to me at some point. So like I said, if you have another closet somewhere or space in a linen closet where you can stack the sweaters in a bin and label them, use that and get it out of your primary closet. Unless you have a humongous closet and you have room to store it and label it in there. Use the space under a bed. You can store shoes, you can store linens. There's so many things you can store in closed lids under the bed. So that's an area people don't generally think about, but there's a lot of good storage for winter items, for accessories. So storing under the the bed, and labeling boxes, because if you put a bunch of stuff in a box and it's not clear, you're not even going to know what it is, and come fall, you're just going to go buy more. So it's important to label all the boxes, winter scarves, turtleneck sweaters, ski clothes, whatever it is, label it. So when you look up, you'll know exactly where it is, and come fall, you'll pull it out. I also like to use boot shapers and boots, and boot containers, booty containers, so that you're not, for the next 9 months, having your shoes collect dust. That way you can stack them, they're stackable, and you're keeping the dust off all your shoes. And if you didn't wear it in this season of winter, really think about what you're storing. So if you didn't even like it and you're thinking of storing something for a whole nother year.
And you've already taken it out of storage, had it in your closet for a whole season,
yes.
and now it's time to put it back in storage. But it never made an appearance on your body.
ever made an appearance in your wardrobe at all. Think about donating it or consigning it. And I also think spring is the time where you need to make a list of everything in your house that needs to be repaired. So if you have a broken ceiling fan, if you have a broken window, if your air conditioning filters all need changed because they're filthy, it's the time to make lists and either have a really good handyman or a handy person, friend, do the things that need to be fixed, because it really, really makes a difference. I mean, having a broken curtain rod laying in your bedroom, it's not calming. It's not peaceful. It's annoying because you're like, God, I can't believe that's still sitting on the floor. I should have done that a week ago. And then you start with the should haves. And so keeping a list that you maybe want accomplished by the end of May, beginning of June, and making your list of everything, go from room to room, what needs to be fixed. Does something need a fresh coat of paint? And it really will make a big difference. And it doesn't necessarily have to be spring, but spring is generally when people think, I need a bit of a refresh,
Yeah. Plus you can, like you mentioned, bring in a handyman or a handy person, somebody for the day or a couple of hours, and knock it all out at once.
Yes. And really, it does make a big difference, because when you walk in your house, you're not looking at those items anymore. They're fixed. They're done. You can just sit back and enjoy your house. And that brings me to making a mental checklist. And a mental checklist is what is not bringing calm to your home and to your life. Is it people that are causing you anxiety and stress? Is there, a piece of workout equipment that every day you stare at it, but you haven't been on it in like 2 years? What is not bringing your home the calm and peace that you want it to have? Because as you all know, my goal when I go in and organize someone is when I leave, their house is a place they cannot wait to come home to at the end of the day. And so having all those items, whether it's people, things out of your life that are no longer bringing you the calm and the peace that you want, is important really all year around, but we're in spring cleaning right now.
The best example I can think in my life is books. I love a good book sale. I love a yard sale where they have books out. And I just love the idea that one day I'll be reading a book. But I do everything on audiobook. So I don't know why I keep buying these paper books. And I know some people just love to have their hands on their books. But what happens is every time I walk by and see them, the books sitting on a whether it's a nightstand or I have a few on a shelf in a closet, it makes me feel guilty.
Right.
Why haven't I read that book yet? I've heard it's so good. Well, because you know what? If you do get around to reading it, for me, it's going to be an audiobook. You're not even going to look at that. So that's the first thing I always, when I'm doing my purges, I always end up with all of these books in a pile. And I'm like, why do I then go? We drove by the library the other day and they were having their big book sale where you get a bag. Our local library does this. You get a bag, and for a few bucks, you can fill that bag as full as you want with the books that they're getting rid of. And I always go in there, well, I used to anyway, before I had this new attitude. And I would just be like, oh my gosh, I got to look for all these books that I've been, but I don't crack the book. It stares at me and it makes me feel guilty, like I'm skipping my homework.
Well, the public libraries locally here, and I'm sure it's in other cities and states, they want your books, gently used, not brand new, kids' books, any kind of books, puzzles, anything they will take because they use them to sell to raise money.
Yes.
So if you have tons of books, check out your local public library and they will take them. And I think that's great. I think whenever you can take something that you no longer want, but somebody else will benefit, just makes you feel good all the way around.
We have a book, a little book house, the little
Yes.
library in the neighborhood.
Yes, we do
where
too.
you take a book, leave a book.
Yep.
So I've been doing that. So I really love that. What else you got there, lady? Anything else?
Well, I just think the spring cleaning all goes back to what we keep talking about, which is letting it go and don't look back. You don't want to keep no matter what time of year it is, you want to purge and get rid of the things in your life that you no longer want anymore. And whether, like I said, it doesn't matter what time of year it is, it's just spring motivates people, which I love, to do a deep clean. And whether that's internally or in your house, to really do a deep clean in your life.
So you can look at things like you would a knickknack that gets dusty. Is this something that's not serving me, but it is collecting dust and creating more work for me? That's when you have to let it go and don't look back, whether that's I hate to think of a friend collecting dust, but friendships, things like
Yes.
that collect dust. So that's kind of been our mantra all along. And I know that Christine is always happy to answer your questions if you reach out to her. You can find her, of course, through the Uncluttered and Unfiltered Ladies Only community page that we have. And every time we have a new podcast episode, we get some more requests. So please, join the club. And of course, you can find her at Neatly Designed. And that's on Instagram. And also
Yes.
you have the website,
Yes.
neatlydesign.com. That's if you are now suddenly feeling extra motivated to get uncluttered. We would love it if you know how to leave a review for the podcast. If you can give it 5 stars, or share with a friend. Tell a friend and let them know that they can join our community as well. And until the next time, we invite you to remember always that you can let it go
And don't look back.